So now that we've selected our component, now that we are back in our code, we can go ahead and actually just pull over what we got from Bootstrap here. So removing the debugger, let's just copy and paste this code that we just actually decided was a good fit for our data. So here we have our essential skeleton for our listing. We have this all wrapped in a list group class. We have an A tag, which is going to be our link to our apartment. And we have a header as well as just some descriptive text down below. So this is great. And looking back at our index.html, just to point out, we actually already have a div with this list group class here because I was preparing for us to use this list. So this is actually where our A tags, our new elements that we're creating, are going to be appended. So back to what we actually pulled over from Bootstrap, we can go ahead and delete this list group here. We don't need that. And so now we have our basic skeleton for our listing. It's going to be this A tag with a header and text. So what we probably want to do is actually store this in a variable because it's the variable that we're going to actually append to our DOM. So I'm just going to call this variable here listing. Now, since JavaScript doesn't understand this HTML, we actually have to wrap the entire thing in quotes. So we're actually making it a string. And we're going to run into some conflicts if we have double quotes and then double quotes within this block of HTML as well. So first things first, let's go ahead and change all these double quotes that came over from when we copied this to single quotes. And then we'll wrap the entire block of HTML in a set of double quotes. Awesome. So that's our first step. Next step is we want to remove the hard-coded text that it came over with. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this list group item heading here. We'll replace that with something more relevant. And I'm going to remove these ellipses here. And lastly, I don't necessarily need this active class that it put on this list group item because we don't have a default active listing. We're going to have them all available for selection. So let's remove that active class. Okay, next step is we want to actually put this all on one line. So JavaScript gets a little finicky about having things broken up like that within quotes. So yeah, we're going to move this all to one line. Now it's a little harder to read, but we know the areas we're going to be working in. We're going to be working with the header, and we're also going to be working with the P tag down below with the descriptive text. So getting started. What do we actually want in our header? Well, let's see what properties we have access to. We could actually go ahead and just look at the actual JSON file because this is going to show us all the properties that we can access and create our HTML element with. So we have description, city, state, neighborhood, price, bedrooms, and address. So we know we're going to use this address when it comes to creating that link. But the rest of this is all fair game. So it's really a matter of how you would like this information displayed. So to get started and make sure that we are actually just appending things correctly, let's go ahead and start with the description. And so now we have access to our apartment, and we want to actually display the description properties value. And so in order to do that, we're going to use that dot notation again. And we're going to also use concatenation, which we learned last time. That's where we want to add an element that we have in JavaScript to our HTML or to a string. So in this case, we can go ahead within our header tag here, end these quotes, and then we're going to add another quote back here. And in the middle here, we actually want to go ahead and add our apartment.description. And then we want to go ahead and add that to the other string there. So now we have a variable that is returning to us a block of HTML with the apartment description as the header. So we actually want this information displayed, so we have to append this variable to our DOM. And in this case, in order to select an element, we know how to do this. We've been doing this since project 2. We're going to actually use our selector. And what we're going to do is select the div with the class of apartments down here. This is where all of our listings are going to be appended to. So within our each iteration here, we're actually going to select the HTML element with the class of apartments. And we're going to append our listing variable that we just created. So let's go ahead and give that a spin. So you can see here on our page that we have actually all of our list items being rendered, and they have the description there. So now it's just a matter of making this look how we want. So for instance, going back here, I would like to add a little bit more information to the description. So I think we could separate some more information by slashes, for instance. So after the description, I'm going to go ahead and say slash with the space there. And let's go ahead and add some more information. I'm going to say here apartment.bedrooms, since we have access to the bedrooms. Just confirming that that's actually plural. Okay, bedrooms. So we have now the description plus the bedrooms, which I did not concatenate correctly. Let's go ahead and add this appropriately. And then maybe we want to add some additional information. And let's go ahead and also add the price. Awesome. So now we have a little bit more going on in our header. We have the description, the bedrooms, and the price. And then maybe in this descriptive text down below, we can say the neighborhood. So same thing with the concatenation. We're actually just going to add apartment.neighborhood. Awesome. So let's go see how this actually looks now. Returning to our site, we're going to refresh the page. And that looks awesome. So we now have our listings actually displaying much more interesting information. And it looks pretty professional. So now let's move on to our next step, which is that when we click on another filter here, we want the actual apartments to be filtered by their borough. So how are we going to do that?